Good afternoon, evening, or morning, depending on where you are in the world. We have exceptional people in dozens of countries subscribed to the channel, so shout out to the new subs. Welcome aboard. Today we're going to be talking Ukraine, Russia, and the dangerous game the West is playing in particular, which is escalating towards direct conflict with the bear itself, which would be the start of World War III. Now, the biggest breaking taboo of this week is Western tanks appear to be headed towards Ukraine. Now, of course, anyone who's been following anything, my channel or the news in general, knows that that is a big red line in the sand. We're already in a proxy war with Russia, and this is just one more escalatory measure. Now, the West has sent an array of weapons. One scene is too provocative, and it looks like tanks will be the next. With a new Russian offensive expected, officials see an urgent need to shift the balance. Now, before we hop into the article, the best thing you guys can do to help me out is not only to leave a like, comment down below, but the biggest free thing you guys can do to help my channel out is watch the video all the way to the end, and of course subscribe if you see anything of value. Now, with that being said, the United States in late December is going to send Patriot air defense systems. I've already made a video on this. However, Germany committed just this week to provide a Patriot missile battery as well. France, Germany, and the United States each promised to send armored fighting vehicles to Ukraine's battlefields for the first time. Now, of course, they're talking about the Bradley. British signaled that they were close to agreeing to send a small number of tanks, and the Polish government said it would happily send some of its German-made tanks. Of course, we're talking about the Leopard 2s. Again, sending German-made tanks in the arsenals of other NATO allies. The tanks, called the Leopard 2s, are amongst the most coveted by Kiev, and experts say that in significant numbers, they would substantially increase Ukraine's ability to drive back Russian forces. An interesting one, of course, Zelensky says somebody always has to set an example. Here you guys can see some of the pictures. We've also got Norwegian and British Army Challenger 2 tank over here on the right. Now, hopping down into the rest of the article that goes on to talk about Scholz, and they have an estimated 2,000 German-made Leopard tanks and more than a dozen militaries across Europe, so they could quickly move them into Ukraine if Berlin approves them. This is the right time for Ukraine to take advantage of its capabilities to change the dynamic on the battlefield, Ms. Cooper said. Here's another picture here. You can see the U.S. 2nd Armored Brigade combat team unloading a ship from the Polish port last month. Of course, there's a lot of Abrams in Poland right now. And interesting big takeaway here. Mr. Scholz said his party, here's where the big chessboard comes into play. Mr. Scholz and his party, quote, want to keep a relationship with Russia and with Putin for the future, and thinks that if he gives Ukraine the best Germany has, Russia will perceive this as breaking a special relationship. Of course, quote, but pressure from allies is becoming too strong. That's the big takeaway here. The Allies have pressured them into making this decision, even though, fortunately, winter hasn't been too severe, or else a lot of Germans would have already froze to death. They, of course, were the biggest impact by the pipeline Nord Stream being sabotaged. So that's an interesting one. Germany wants to keep their options open, and the West is pressuring them into sending tanks, which of course is going to escalate tensions with Russia. Now, Russia sent its biggest gun to Ukraine. Of course, Russian forces, who have, quote, suffered considerable losses on the front, are sending their dubbed Sledgehammer self-propelled 2S4 mortar, known as the Tulip in English, has a 240mm cannon, twice the caliber of NATO mortars, which of course are 120mm. So interesting development there. Satellite photos show what equipment Belarus has pulled to the border with Ukraine as well. They go through the analysis of all types of things, from S-400 Triumph anti-aircraft missile systems to, of course, vehicles and everything else. And here's just a This is just ludicrous. The House Conservatives rip resolution calling for bust to honor Zelensky to be put into the Capitol days after Congress passed its massive government funding bill, which included $45 billion in aid for Ukraine. The Pentagon pledged another $1.85 billion in the use of U.S. Patriot missile systems to shore up Ukraine's air defense. And somebody wanted to put a big marble bust of Zelensky in the capital, which is absolutely ridiculous. NATO deploys AWACS surveillance jets to Romania, which of course are airborne warning and control systems, surveillance planes to Bucharest, Romania. The aircraft are scheduled to arrive January 17th, so just 3 days from now, and are going to support the alliance's reinforced presence in the region and monitor Russian military activity. And of course, we'll be relaying that intel, I assume, to the Ukrainians. Ukrainian envoy calls on Israel to send anti-missile, anti-drone systems. Of course, Zelensky has been harassing Israel for some aid, and it looks like Israel's new government must stand with Kiev and send defensive weapons to protect its civilians against Russian missiles. And Russian army set to increase number of soldiers to 1.5 million, create 24 new divisions. They said on Thursday the Russian army plans to increase the number of men from September's 1.35 million to 1.5 million total, again creating 20 more divisions. And the Pentagon announces Ukrainian troops will train in, drum roll, right here in the United States, our very own Oklahoma. Shortly after the U.S. announced it will send a Patriot air defense system and more weapons to Ukraine, Ukrainian soldiers are going to be coming to the United States to train on a Patriot system. And of course, like I said, our very own Fort Sill in Oklahoma. Training for Ukrainian forces on the Patriot air defense system will begin as soon as next week. That's right, as in 3 days from now. They're going to have about 90 to 100 Ukrainian troops, and they're going to train them to operate and sustain the system, which is an interesting development now that we have troops, Ukrainians, directly on home soil training. I'll be curious what Russia's response to that is going to be. And the most inflammatory of all the articles, I have saved the best for last, so stay tuned for just another 60 seconds, and then of course leave a like, subscribe with the notification bell. It is a fact. Ukrainian government declares country is de facto NATO member. Wow. Ukraine's defense minister has told Western media is a de facto NATO member and expects substantial Western weapon shipments shortly. That's right, this is from January 13th, just last night. Ukraine as a country and the armed forces of Ukraine became a member of NATO de facto, not de jure, by law, because we have weaponry and the understanding of how to use it. Zelensky's defense chief, Alexei Reznikov, said in an interview with the British Broadcasting Corporation. Again, Ukrainian official was unmoved. However, why would it be controversial? It's true. It's a fact, he insisted. Again, quoted, "I'm sure that in the near future we'll become an official member of NATO by law." Wow, that is some very dangerous rhetoric, almost as bad as Putin's constant nuclear threats. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Should they be officially by law a NATO member? What do you think? I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for tuning in.